So thank you for joining us. I'm sure lots of people already tuned in, already follow you, Claire, but just we like to do a little introduction. So Claire, yes, she is an early years expert, an author, a mum of two little ones already, and you've got another one on the way as well, Claire. So for those of you who don't know already, she's got PlayHooray, her account. And am I right in thinking that you quit your day job as a primary school teacher to just create a better work-life balance for you? And that's how the whole idea of PlayHooray was born.
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't the plan though. It wasn't the plan to finish teaching to start a business. I finished teaching. I think a lot of people presume that teaching is a great job to have with a young family, and I think it used to be. However, it's changed a lot now. And like a friend of mine said the other day, is that she realised, being a primary school teacher, is that she would never be able to do the drop off and pick up of her own children because she's obviously tied to being in school. So for me, it was just that at the time we were living down in Bristol. We're now in Nottingham, but we were in Bristol. We just had our first beautiful baby. So it was like, he was my world. Oh my goodness. And I just wasn't ready to go back into the workplace. The school I was working for, so I'm getting all alerts that I'm going live. The school I was working in, it was very much, you come back full time, you don't come back, was a very clear message we were told. So I thought, I'll just have a little bit longer at home with my baby, always planning on going back to teaching. And however, as much as I loved being at home with Mason, and like I said, we had no friends or family nearby, but I did find the day at home with my baby was lovely, but it was really long and quite lonely at times. And I started PlayHooray because it was something to keep me stimulated. It was giving me a purpose to my day. I started using Play to keep Mason busy as a baby, but also he never slept. So I was always exhausted. So I would set up activities to keep him busy so I could just sit and have that like 5 minutes with a cup of tea and watch him play, and just start sharing it online. And it's sort of grown from there. So it was never the plan to be a business. It's just sort of grown and sort of snowballed since then.
Yeah, it's quite massively.
Yeah, if I knew what I was getting myself in for, I don't know whether I'd have been brave enough. But yeah, it was and always thought I was going to go back into teaching, and then it's become like a full-time job now. So
Yeah. Well done. Well, as you said there, I think many of us will have found, like, when you first have your baby, obviously, the days do feel quite long. We don't have that structure as well, like that you would have in a job. It's like, how do you break down the day so it does feel a bit more like there's a plan there, without it feeling too exhausting as well. And obviously for you just started to play with him, and you probably already knew intuitively like what you were doing to kind of develop him. Like, so a lot of mums probably feel like, where do you even start with that kind of thing? I know I felt like that. I was like on YouTube and obviously looking at what you do just to get that inspiration. So yeah, what would you say to those mums that are probably on maternity leave now thinking, right, the baby's probably about what, 2 months onwards, would you say? Is when start this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think those early days are really hard, aren't they? Because as I always say to parents, there's no certain time to start playing. I think people feel like they need to be doing things straight away. Actually, the best thing you can do with your baby are those cuddles, it's that skin to skin, chatting with them, singing with them, or just you. They just want you at the beginning, which can be quite all-consuming, can't it? And then it gets to the point, maybe, like you say, 2-3 months, they need a bit more stimulation. And I think and I always say it's when you as a parent feel ready to play as well, because there's enough going on getting through the day, isn't there? It's ridiculous. And so there will be times when you find yourself, you're not going to appointments or classes, and you find that you've got a bit of time and you might want to use that time to play with your baby. And the beauty of play is that not only are you stimulating them to support their development, it's also great stimulation for you as well. And it can get really exciting of trying to think of new ideas and stuff. And this is where I sort of buzz, because I just love the way that play can really support child development, particularly those early stages. So what I would say at that bit is just, I think, keep it simple, keep it really simple. This is babies and toddlers. Keep it really simple, because it's all about supporting those very early skills. So it's about keeping them stimulated. Think about those sensors, their 5 main sensors, and just keeping them alert and giving them things to do and to look at. Like the lovely black and white images are so good for babies now that they can, as their eyes are developing, they're able to focus better. It can also be very calming for a baby too. So you will have seen in the shops that all these lovely black and white, monochrome, highly patterned muslin cloths and flashcards and books. Yes, they do look very cool and fashionable, but actually there's a lot of science behind them, and they're really great for babies' eye development. So having just a couple of pieces like that, and just getting in the habit of setting up a little something for them to play with. However, not putting pressure on yourself that you need to be setting up something new every day, because I think that's also the opposite thing of social media. You can look and you see, and you feel like should be setting up an activity left, right and centre, and it's just not the case. That repetition, which for us parents, yes, can sometimes feel a bit boring. And I do get messages from parents to say, I feel like the baby's getting bored of what we're doing. And I always reassure them and say, actually, they're not. That repetition is really good for the babies, because not only are they practicing those skills, they're embedding those skills, and they will get better and grow confidence with that. And so, yeah, just to all that repetition in their play, they are learning things. They're taking in so much more than you realise. And even something as simple as reading with your baby from a young age, from the day that they're born. Okay, they might not be focusing on the pictures, but they're listening to your voice, and they're getting, if you hold them really close, they can feel the vibrations, and it's a lovely way of bonding and getting to know you, and they'll be looking at your face, and it's just a really lovely thing that you can do that helps to fill your day, particularly those days when you haven't got any plans and you're wondering what to do. So having just a couple of tricks up your sleeve can really make the difference.
So obviously you mentioned repetition there. Does that mean then that we don't need to go out and buy a million things, like especially in those early days?
Yeah, I think, I don't know about you, but before I became a mum, you get the list, don't you, of everything, the hospital bag, and you buy and you've got all these things for the baby, the feeding, the cleaning, and everything else. And I think play almost gets forgotten about because you don't quite realise, and you just sort of, it's just not on the agenda to begin with. But then as the days start and you are at home, you start thinking of like what to do with them, how am I going to keep them busy, and it's really easy to feel pressured to think, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy all the baby toys in the shops, which it was only when I had a baby I discovered just how expensive toys were for children. Who knew? It's ridiculous. So I think there is a pressure that we should be buying lots of toys, when actually it's just not the case. So what I try to do is show parents that actually, more often than not, we have stuff in our house that can be used safely with our babies to stimulate them. So even just as simple as like, like we always hear grandma saying about the pots and pans and the wooden spoons and the boxes. It's true. That's all they want, is that simple stuff. So I think don't feel pressured to have to go out and buy lots of toys. There are toy libraries where you can actually hire toys and borrow toys for a short amount of time, and books as well, which is really great. And then obviously you're changing things over regularly. But then there are what I always say is there are maybe a couple of items that you might want to invest in. And again, not a lot of money. You can pick these up in the bargain shops, but they're the kind of things that you will be able to reuse and get lots of use out of. So one of my favourites is the Sensory Scarves. They're a lovely, light, soft scarf, and you can play with them in a variety of different ways to stimulate your baby. And if you do ever go to any baby classes, you'll see them being used there because they're really popular. You're talking a couple of pounds for probably 4 or 5, but you'll get lots of use out of them, not only as a baby, but even as a toddler and a preschooler. And as they get bigger, they will still pull them out to dance with and all sorts. And another one of my favourites is like balls and stacking cups. Again, even after the baby stage, they will be able to play with them in lots of ways. So there may be a couple of items you want to invest in and purchase, and you can always put it on your baby list, or when family and friends saying what what do you want, what do you need? They're the kind of things to add then. But other than that, you've got loads of things around the house, like even just cardboard tubes to whisper down to your baby, mirrors, anything like that can be used in lots of different ways to keep your baby busy and to keep you stimulated as well.
Oh, I think that's been music to everybody's ears, especially at the minute, obviously, with money being so tight. So that's amazing advice. But what would you say? I think a lot of us feel the pressure to enroll in classes as soon as baby is big enough.
Yeah.
Um, what would your advice be on that?
Okay. I love baby classes, and now there is, oh my goodness, the range of baby classes that are out is amazing. There is so much on offer, which is brilliant. So baby classes are fantastic, and you can get a wide range of them. You can get private classes. You can also get classes run in children's centres as well, which you're talking, I mean, I'm talking back in the day when I used to take medicine 7 years ago, but for like £1.50, you'd be there for a couple of hours. I remember walking in and they just had, you know, do you want us to take the baby? They held the baby while I was sorting out the pram. Do you want a cup of tea? They made me a cup of tea and brought me a biscuit. You know, like those things that you just need an extra pair of hands. You just need someone to make you a cup of tea. And so they can be really lovely. So you don't need to be spending a lot of money on classes. And there are loads and loads of benefits for you taking your baby to classes. Not only is it great for stimulating your baby, you know, like I said, even picking up new ideas, seeing how they play with the scarves, or I did like baby massage is a lovely one as well to do, you know, just picking up some tricks for those days that you are at home. It's a really lovely thing. But I think it's also really important for us parents as well to socialize, to give us an excuse to get out the house, to meet other parents and just hear other people that are in the similar situation. But then at the same thing, in the same balance, I don't think it's everything in moderation, isn't it? You don't be putting pressure on yourself to be doing a class in the morning, a class in the afternoon. If it's causing you stress to get out the door and get there on time, and I think it's about finding what works for you. Maybe try a couple of classes, but don't be putting that pressure on yourself. You don't need to be doing all of them. You definitely don't. And like I say, just do what is manageable and not going to cause too much stress. But I think the socializing part is really, really important. But then you've got to weigh that up with, you know, is it causing me distress trying to get out every day? Because that is hard, just even leaving the house, isn't it? And there's some days that you just don't feel up to it. So if you don't give yourself a hard time. You just wipe the slate clean and have a day at home, and the babies will still love that. So yeah, I think everything in moderation, really.
I think that's really interesting as well, because obviously, well, it's not obvious, but when I had my baby, and I know when you had yours, we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
So we had the choice of going to classes. So that's where I discovered like the virtual ones, like yours and like the ones on YouTube.
Yeah.
I still tune into them now. And I guess that leads on to the fact that a lot of these preschool classes and the ones that are more like term time run, they're going to be closing down for summer holidays as well. So people that are used to going to those classes as part of their week,
Yeah.
and they're thinking, well, what am I going to do? Like, days out are going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
What would you say to those parents that are a bit worried about that?
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, those virtual classes at those points are brilliant for those, aren't they? There's some really good ones out there. And even such as the Baby Club and the Toddler Club on CBeebies, you know, they are really great programs, which not only give you ideas, but it will also give you that 5-minute breather of getting a hot cup of tea and just getting to sit, and you know that your baby's seen a lot. I mean, Leo, my little one, he's like 21, 22 months now. He will dance away watching some of those. They get to know the songs. They're actually learning so much from those Zoom classes because they're written so well, and they're often done by experts, like the ones on CBeebies. They're written and consulted with experts, and there are lots of really high quality ones on YouTube too. So I think definitely take advantage of those, particularly in summer holidays and when it's out of term time, when all those classes stop. That turn into things like that can be really beneficial and really useful, but also sometimes gives you some new ideas as well of what you might want to do. You might see something and think, oh, we'll carry on that and we'll do that at home. Or we've done one before where the toddler club, the baby club, they put things in the bag, and Leo loves that, just pulling things out of bags, basically, emptying drawers and all that sort of stuff. And so we watched it, and then we went and we played it ourselves. So sometimes it can be a bit of a spark and give you new ideas. What I'd always say, particularly in school holidays, what I try to do, something that's worked well for me, is always trying to leave the house in the morning. I don't mean like, you know, like get up and get out, but when you can, just finding an excuse to get outside. Getting some fresh air can be a game changer. I'm very aware there are some days it's the last thing you want to do. And I really, even myself, I know all the benefits, but it can be a real push. You're just not in the mood. But quite often I find it's like pressing that reset button, just getting some fresh air. Even if it's raining, just getting zipped up, getting the cover on the pram and just getting out, even if it's a walk down the lane or to post a letter, just finding an excuse just to leave the house can be like recharge yourself almost, particularly when energy levels are low. And the similar thing I find, particularly, you know, like the afternoons when after lunch, they're maybe not napping anymore or whatever, and you've got a long time till dinner time, and it just feels like the clock's going backwards, and it's like the longest afternoon. You're thinking, what are we going to do next? I always use water play at that point. You know, we go in the bath and we'll have a bath mid-afternoon because one, I've got more energy. If we do it after dinner, I'm exhausted and it's too stressful and they're tired. And whereas, you know, a mid-afternoon bath, it breaks up the afternoon, it kills a bit of time. They can be in the bath for longer. They're loving it. They're splashing around, they're playing. It's a real energizer is water play. So having little tricks like that up your sleeve can be really useful. So don't feel like you have to do bath time at the end of the day as part of it. Yes, it might be part of your routine, but you could also do it as well in the morning or just when you've got a chunk of time, you're wondering what you're going to do. So doing things like that, I find can be really helpful. And then, like I said, play is a brilliant tool. We don't play every day, but there are times when I think, right, I've got half an hour before dinner time, what we're going to do. It's nice knowing that we can grab a couple of things, a box or a tube or some pom-poms or just a couple of things that we can throw something together, and it's going to keep Leo entertained when he's going to have, otherwise he'll be climbing my legs when I'm trying to cook. And all stressful, isn't it? And like yesterday, he just found a box of pegs and he was so interested, and we just clicked them on the edge of the box and putting them on and off. And it can just be really simple. It doesn't have to look like something on Pinterest. It can just be very basic. But it just fascinated him. It just kept him entertained. It kept him busy for ages. So, yeah, I think keep it simple, but just having walks, fresh air, and some water play up your sleeve can be a game changer for particularly feeling a long day at home in the holidays.
I think of something before as well, I mentioned like theming days almost.
Yeah. I think with older ones, definitely. If you've got an older child in the summer holidays, I love... and this is something that we've always done in school holidays, is we will theme our days. So we'll maybe start with a book. We quite often use like a lovely children's storybook to inspire our play, and just snuggling up, reading that together. And then more often than not, a book will just spark an idea and you'll think, oh, do you know what? Should we go and do that? But it doesn't have to be, it could come from anything. It could come from, I just remember once Mason when he was much younger, we were sat inside and we were playing Play-Doh, and a butterfly had come in the house and he was fascinated by this butterfly. So we spent the rest of the day doing butterflies. We were making butterflies, we were painting butterflies, we went outside to look for butterflies, we watched a little butterfly little clip on YouTube of butterflies. We then looked through our books to see if we had any butterfly books, you know. Just sometimes those little sparks, something our children are interested in, or a book, whatever, can really inspire like the rest of your day. And actually, it doesn't even. There is one example. We were watching Peppa Pig, good old Peppa Pig, and you know your inspiration can come from anywhere. And they were making paper aeroplanes. I think they did it with Daddy Pig's drawings or something, and they made paper aeroplanes. And I was like, oh, we've never done paper airplanes. Let's go outside and make some. So even though our inspiration came from Peppa Pig, it doesn't matter. It gave us an idea. It gave us something that we wanted to do. So yeah, I think particularly having a theme or just something that really captures your child's imagination, it's really making them tick and they're interested and they want to learn more. That can be a great motivator. And also it's nice for you then, because then you can start coming up with lots of new ideas.
I love that because I think I often feel like I'm surrounded by a million toys and he's playing with one thing for 1 second and then moving on. And
Yeah,
it's really hard to hone in on like one thing and feel like you can span it out for a longer amount of time. So I
yeah.
guess that kind of going down that route, that probably helps you as well, doesn't it? Entertain both ages.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, like you say, if there's quite often, what I often say is, if you, one of the best things you can do, I have lots of people that say, you know, what should I set up for my little one? What I always say is watch them when they're playing. So like you say, your little one's fascinated by this one toy, and it could be a really basic skill that they're practicing. But so, for example, had a lady the other day, I spend a lot of time in my DMs, like chatting to parents, and she was saying, all my toddler wants to do is knock stuff over, is destroy stuff. And I was like, well, first of all, you're not the only one. I've got a 22-month-old who does that. You know, they're really into that. But when they're knocking stuff over, I want you to really watch them, like really watch them, because what is it about knocking stuff over? Is he enjoying building with the blocks to then knock them over and see how they fall? You know, is he testing it? Is it a certain thing? Does he only like knocking over blocks, or does he like knocking over everything? Or, you know, that's, I was really trying to ask her to really focus in and watch, because then the more you watch your child and actually pinpoint what it is that they're fascinated by, it can really help you then to set up other things. So she was saying, you know, I want to do Play-Doh with him, I want to do this, that and the other, but all he wants to do is build towers and knock them over. And I was like, okay, so that's his thing, that's what he likes, that's sparking him, getting him excited and motivating him to play. So do more of that. The Play-Doh can wait. He'll do Play-Doh another day, he'll do cars another, you know, it will come. But if that's his interest at the moment, stick with that. So I was like, what else could you build towers with for him to knock over? So we then talked about building with toilet rolls, because then you could knock them over. Nice and big and chunky, and they bounce anyway, don't they? And building them with paper cups, or building them with empty cereal boxes. You know, if there's something they're really interested in, do that, and do it in lots of different ways. And something like construction, something like sensory play, something like water play is a great way of getting children of multiple ages to play as well, which is a really nice one. So like I said, I've got a 7-year-old and a 22-month-old, so a big age gap, but quite often they will play alongside each other, not necessarily always together, because it's a big age gap, so they're playing at different levels, but they are playing to their own ability. So something like building the towers, Mason, my eldest, is much better at building a structure, at getting things to balance. And then he understands that for Leo, the satisfaction comes with coming along and knocking it over and watch it go flying, and they laugh and they think it's hilarious. So I think it's trying to find something that really sparks both of them, and there's something very open-ended like construction, like water play, like sensory play, that they can play alongside each other but at their own level. I think sometimes when it comes to sensory play, we want our children to play together, but if there's a big age gap, it's not till later on in life that children are actually able to play together, like teamwork and sharing. That's quite an advanced skill for a child. Particularly for younger children, it's very much about survival of the fittest. It's looking after me and the world. It's all about me. That's the important bit. And that's just how humans develop. It's only as they get older, they are able to sympathize with other people's feelings and how to work together and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's just being understanding that for younger children, for a long time, they will do parallel play, so play together, but not necessarily always be able to do like the teamwork sort of exercises. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, really reassuring to hear that's how you find
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
that's brilliant.
But it can still be tough.
Obviously, a lot of things you've mentioned, although they involve like things from around the house and they don't cost a lot of money, how do we then take those ideas on holiday with us? Obviously, when we've got not that much space in our cases anyway, you know, and I know I'm going on holiday next week and I'm already worried about the plane journey.
Yeah.
I don't want them to watch a screen the whole time when we're eating in restaurants and things. So yeah, Claire, anything you can give on that would be great. I'm sure a lot of us feel in the same boat right now.
Yeah, I get it. This is honestly this. Yeah, this is all that people are asking me is like, what am I going to do on the plane or in the car or anything like that? So first of all is don't panic, because I think more often than not, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. So I just want to comment, and you're certainly not the only one to be worrying about, particularly with younger children. It can be very difficult. As always, I say having tricks up your sleeve is just a game changer. So just having a few things, you know, when you are in that situation, don't give them all the toys. You want to stretch them out. You want to deliver little pieces at a time, just to keep them going. But be strategic with what you pack. Try to pack just a few items. You just want a little bag of things that can be played with in a variety of ways. So like an open-ended toy. So you want things that you're going to be able to use in lots of different ways. So some of my favorites are things like sticky notes or washi tape, maybe depending how old they are, dice for older ones, stickers, things like that are really great for making up their own games, making, you know, like particularly washi tape, which is that like paper art tape. That's great because like on the aeroplane you can do, even for babies, you can do strips and they just rip it off and think it's hilarious. Or sticky notes, they can grab them, pull them off. But if you've got an older child as well, you know, you could maybe write numbers on them, you could hide things, you can make card pops, you can make tickets with them. You can use them, very versatile, so you're going to be able to use them in lots of different ways, rather than just taking puzzles and certain things like that. I then also have some sort of like drawing material, whether it's colouring books or chunky crayons and things like that, depending on the age of your child. I don't know if you've seen those lovely water pads where I can't think of who makes them, but you open them up and it's like you have a water in a pen, and so they can actually paint, and it like reveals the colour, but it's not making a mess. So having a couple of things like that maybe they've never played with before can be really nice. Or maybe some toys that they've not played with for a long time. So if you've got a little set of cars or people or animals or dinosaurs, pack those away, because again, you can play games with those. They can pretend with them. There's lots and lots of things you can do. Then be very tactical with the snacks that you pack. So something like an apple is going to take a lot longer to eat than a packet of crisps or a biscuit or something like that. So I'm always really conscious of giving things that take a while to eat. It can be a good time filler. And then I also I always make sure we have screens charged. We take screens. People are always surprised. I use Screen Time. It's another tool to have up your belt. Have them charged. Have them with the favourite programs downloaded. Maybe some new ones and films and programs and things. Have them at the ready because you are going to need them. And then one of my favourite things to pack is like a big scarf or a big pashmina, something like that. Can be really handy because particularly with younger one, with babies and toddlers, it can be a great way of like darkening it for if you're trying to get them to sleep, or if you've got one of those extra large muslin cloths, you know, you can get them to sleep. Or when you're at the hotel or your holiday place, you can use them to build dens. You could do all sorts with them. You can use them for their animals on top. They're so versatile that I think you get lots of use of. And also sometimes it's a bit cold on the plane, so you can wrap them up in those as well. So having something like that I find can be really useful. But don't panic. And like I said, stretch things out. Give them little bits at a time. Don't give it all at once. Don't give them away all your surprises.
Also, I feel like your play prompts are quite small to pack.
Yes, we do have some activity cards for young children. It's just I created those because I was a mum and trying to keep a little one entertained, particularly in a confined space like a car or a plane. And so it was things to look for, it's things to talk about, silly games to play, you know, things that you can actually do with the cards, hiding them, balancing them, that sort of stuff. So yeah, we do have our activity cards too. Thank you.
Amazing advice. And don't worry, anybody who tried to write that down, I'm going to make sure that all this is written up and we'll share it afterwards.
I know, but I'm talking very fast and give it.
No, it's great. Keep it coming. It's great. Well, I think we've covered everything for holidays. So I think I'd just say for anybody else who's looking like for more play inspiration and ways to nurture their child's development, where can they find out more?
Where can they find out more? So we have, what do we do? In lockdown, I published a book and an app as well. We've got loads on our website, blogs and videos and tutorials and bits and pieces that I can help with. And do DM me anytime. This is where I spend the majority of my time. I get tired thumbs because I'm usually talking to parents, because I think one of the main things is when it comes to play and child development is you know, I trained to be a primary school teacher for many years. I've taught for many years and then become a mum. And I think we presume, because we were all children once, that we would find play with our children easy, but it's just not the case. And I have a lot of parents who are almost embarrassed to say, I find it really hard to play, or I don't know what to do today. Who just find it difficult, who find it harder than they thought it was going to be. And it's just to say that that's okay. You're definitely not the only one. And if you need support with that, there are some brilliant, like I said, Pinterest, Instagram, there's lots of places you can go now and get lots of lovely ideas. Children's centres are an amazing place, amazing resource if you've got one nearby, who will be able to help you out and often offer things like messy play classes. When you're not in the mood to do the mess at home, go there, use them for their messy play, who charge very little and can help you out, because it is not easy at all. But yes, if there's anything else I can help with, do drop me a message. I'd love to help you if I can.
Oh, thank you. I think you've just made us all realise that you don't have to overthink it too much. And maybe that's why we're going wrong, and we're thinking, oh, it's so hard, like, to keep them entertained. So yeah, it's a breath of fresh air to hear all those tips. So thank you.
Do you know what? I always liken it to cooking. So for me, play just makes sense. It's just the way that I work. I can open a bag of stuff and I can make an activity. I can open a full fridge and not be able to put a meal together. I can't do it. It just, again, it's overthinking it. And I think it's like, there's so many recipes online. I'm always saving recipes. I should be a fantastic cook, but you almost get overwhelmed, don't you? And I find it very overwhelming. Get stressed out when I know we've got people coming for dinner and it's like, what should we cook? And I have to plan it. Whereas that's how I see play. You know, I can find these things and put together. We all have skills in different places. So yeah, just not to panic. And there are lots of people like me out there, teachers, experts, who can definitely help you. So you're definitely not alone.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for giving up time on Friday morning.
Oh,
I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope wishing you well with the rest of your pregnancy as well.
thank you. As long as it stays cool like today, then we're all right.